All right, let's begin. We are going to go over the virtual lab on wind erosion answers real quick, compare them, check them. We'll go over the big meaning, and then we'll move on. So I apologize. This was not my favorite virtual lab, but we did it anyway. So let's go over your work. So if you take a look at this data table, your numbers should be similar if you did it correctly. If not, go ahead and fix your numbers. The measuring was a little weird. If you didn't read it just carefully enough, then it didn't make sense. So basically, the summary is this. The wind direction was always blowing from the west, which means the dunes were moving to the east. And it's very clear when we look at this data, let's science for a moment, as wind speed increased, what did the distance do? It also increased. We have a direct relationship here, and that's all I was looking for. So something to this effect, as wind speed increased over time, the distance the sand dunes moved also increased. Pretty straightforward, I hope. Increased wind speed, increase the amount of erosion. Erosion meaning movement or transportation of materials. Okay, I hope that was pretty straightforward. Sorry, that wasn't the best lab. Moving on. Maybe this is more interesting. So we haven't talked a lot about this. I'm guessing you guys touched these topics in 6th or 7th grade. How do plants affect sand erosion? Like, this is huge. Like, this is historical. How do plants affect keeping our soil in place? This is a major issue around the world. 1930s, the Dust Bowl. Someday maybe you guys will read some John Steinbeck and the Grapes of Wrath. We did a day-to-day looking at a graph of erosion in Missouri and how it decreased over time. That's really important, especially in agricultural settings. And that pertains to all of us because agricultural settings are important for raising food and crops, which we depend on. Okay, getting off my soapbox, moving on. So here we go, vegetation levels. You have none versus low versus high amounts of vegetation. Wind speed was always the same. We were only testing the amount of vegetation, so one variable changed at a time, everything else kept the same. That's good experimentation, good science. We measured for 10 years at a time, and surprise, what do we see? We saw that as we increased the amount of vegetation on the sand dunes, the amount of erosion decreased. Woo! All right, I hope that was expected. And if not, maybe it was a surprise. And this is a really important lesson. We need to keep vegetation on the land, especially in our sand dunes, which protect our coastal areas because it helps reduce erosion. That's a key point. You can be guaranteed. You will see a question like this on our test on Wednesday. So vegetation is important. It plays an important role in reducing erosion, whether it's along rivers or streams or on sand dunes, water and wind. Glaciers, doesn't matter. Okay, so plants help reduce erosion by slowing the wind speed and preventing sediment from blowing away. Big picture. Okay, any questions? Nope. I guess I can't answer them right now, but if you guys do have questions, email me throughout the day. I will be checking my email and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so this topic, wind erosion, will be on your test tomorrow. All right, now, on the back side, what I wanted you guys to do next is you're going to pause the video and you are going to go grab your Science Fusion book or use the electronic version, and you are going to just go get your Science Fusion book. You are going to compare and contrast how mud flows and glaciers work, and you are going to put that information into that Venn diagram below. So pause the video, go do this work, and then come on back and we'll check your answers. Pause, go do your work, come back and check your answers. Go. All right, you're back. You did your work, right? You're not just coming for the answers. All right, let's see what you guys came up with. Now, this is what I wrote. It doesn't mean that is everything that there is to write, but I thought these were the big ideas. So, on page 125, On 125, that's where you got information about mud flows. It was basically just a paragraph. And on page 120, that's where you got information about glaciers. So what are some differences? Mud flows. They're large masses of mud. Surprise! They move fast. And they happen when we have large amounts of soil and water combined that moves the soil downhill. Thank you, gravity. So it's a mass movement of land. It's both erosion and deposition. Mud flows. Okay. Glaciers are large masses of ice, and they're generally not fast. They're slow. So mud flows fast. Generally, ice is slow. So these massive sheets of ice, they are also doing erosion and deposition. They are picking up rocks and sediment, but they're scraping the ground and polishing the land as they move over the land. Glacial grooves, glacial striations, all that good stuff that we've talked about previously. So, also, glaciers melt. So when glaciers melt, they leave behind, they deposit what we call in general glacial drift, so rocks and sand and all that good stuff. That's important for what we use for today, and it's important for agriculture, important for sand and making different materials. So glaciers melt and leave that stuff behind. So those are the differences. What is similar between the two, or that they both share? Well, gravity plays a role. So the steeper the slope, the faster they go. Gravity causes both of them to move, pulling both of these types of, what do I want to call? You got a landform, you've got a process over here, pulling them downhill. Okay, I hope that is pretty clear and helps you kind of organize your thoughts. So that's one of the great things about graphic organizers, is they can help us organize our thoughts and compare and contrast, which is important for synthesizing information and having higher order thinking. Okay, so I hope that helped. And then we are going to move down and we're going to check our answers for the bottom part of this page, which should look familiar because it came from Blast from the Past. All right, so you guys will have a couple questions about mud flows and glaciers on the test. And here we go. Check your answers. Rapid or slow mass movements are caused by gravity. It's a force. It's a force that's pulling things down, whether it's us, keeping us on the planet, creating our atmosphere, pulling on our land, pulling on glaciers, which is affecting the shaping of the planet of our, shaping the surface of our planet Earth. There we go. All right, so these mass movements are the result of deposition and erosion. Creep is a slow mass movement of material down slope. So that's where the trees may have a bend because of the slow movement of land downhill. Telephone poles may have a bend. They may all be slanting. Or fence posts or tombstones may all be slanting downhill because of a slow movement of soil due to gravity. It's kind of cool. So look for it the next time you're out and about where there are hills. Not really here in Columbus. All right. Rapid mass movements occur when the gradient is steep. So remember gradient, know that word, be comfortable with that word. Gradient is slope, and your mass movements are going to occur more quickly when it's steep. A sudden and large mass movement of the nearby ground surface is a landslide. That can be a rock slide, that can be an earth slide, that can be an avalanche, but landslide. And when water is mixing with ground, with this ground surface or with soil and stuff and sediment, and suddenly moves downhill, that's a mud flow, aka a mudslide. Okay, so what do all those things have in common? They're a result of gravity. Some move fast, some move slow. Okay, all right, so that's it for this document. You may add some material from this onto your review sheet, and I am going to ask you to please turn it in. So please put it into the turn-in bin, and I'm going to come and collect it later today and check it in, okay? So by the end of class, please make sure you put this into the turn-in bin. Okay, you are ready now to move on to the next video, which is going to help you make your review sheet that you can use on the test.